down here on level 1 so low he could parachute out of a snake's asshole.
Hey guys, Phil has recently been bringing up his back tax bullshit again with this looming interview style, podcast style thing he's got coming up. I think I need to clear a few things up. Phil claims he was paying his tax guy in Connecticut to file his taxes, and Phil got screwed over because the tax guy filed Phil's taxes wrong. I'll preface this part with the word allegedly, because my mind reading device isn't finished yet. But I think people need to stop falling for Phil's version of the story, either because they don't remember or they weren't around when it happened. Let's start from the beginning. I'm going to go through things chronologically, but not with the exact dates, because that's just too much fucking work for a stupid DSP video to go back and get every single date. But it will be in the right order. A couple years ago, Phil goes on a Thanksgiving stream where he drops that there's something happening in the background that could negatively impact him, but he doesn't want to say what it is. A couple days later, Phil does something really fucking weird and goes on a rant about how he doesn't actually own a business. What he does is just a thing where he gets money, despite the fact he spent his entire time on YouTube previously calling it a business, to the point that he would talk about what he wrote off as a business expense during his Christmas logs with Leanna. Everyone on the forums and in the detractor community realized this and figured that Phil had gotten in trouble with the IRS about his business. Unfortunately, Phil was right, and no one guessed it correctly. He wasn't in trouble with the IRS about his business. He was in trouble with the Washington State Department of Revenue about his business. The king of semantics, everyone. The key point I want to make is Phil's first defense he made to both the public and, importantly, to the Washington State Department of Revenue, that he didn't run a business. What he was doing was not a business, and it did not fit the criteria for being taxed under the state business and occupation tax. A second important point is that Panda Lee was running a registered business that paid state business and occupation taxes. The Washington State business tax has several different tax levels depending on the type of business. There's one for retail, there's one for wholesale, there's one for manufacturing, there's one for farming, and there's one for services/anything else. When Phil talked about the story, his defense was that he didn't operate a store, he didn't manufacture anything, he didn't own a warehouse, and he didn't own a farm. He literally named every category on the Department of Revenue website but his own. Phil proved he knew there was a business tax and that he's read the guidelines about it. Another important part is that he never did anything about getting his money back. If Phil's claim about his Connecticut tax guy telling him in emails that Phil didn't need to file anything, Phil has an extremely easy case. And it would make up for all of the back taxes he owed. Phil only pays about $1,500 per year in back taxes. He pays about the same amount to his tax guy to file his taxes. If Phil went to the small claims court with just his emails, that's a simple case where he gets his money back and he can pay his back taxes. But Phil didn't do that. Unless, of course, Phil isn't telling the whole truth about what he told his tax guy. Now comes the allegedly part. Phil knew what he was doing. We know, from his own words, that he read the business and occupation tax classifications. He helped Leanna set up her business and register it with Washington State, and she paid those taxes. Phil knew exactly what every other qualification to be a business was in Washington, except for the one that covered his line of work. And that category included, quote, anything else not listed above. And Phil let his tax guy fuck him out of $5,000, which would eventually lead to Phil filing for bankruptcy because he somehow couldn't afford a one-time cost of $4,500, but he could pay $150 per month for the back taxes and pay $1,500 per year for his current taxes. If that sentence made sense to you, make sure you wear a helmet when you're playing in traffic. I know Phil performs the Pignosis, and it's hard to tune out, but I think a lot of people are getting fooled by Phil repeating his lies so often, for so long. I don't have any proof that Phil intentionally lied about his taxes, but we know damn well he isn't spending $5,000 per month on his fucking business. So, allegedly, he's lying to the IRS about that one. Is it too much of a stretch to think that he allegedly lied to the Washington State Department of Revenue about the nature of his business? Allegedly. Phil claims he'd sue detractors for posting lying YouTube videos about him, but when he has a clean case to make back enough money so that he's not screwed over by back taxes, suddenly it's too fucking difficult to drive down to the small claims court and get his money. Maybe Phil is just a cowardly recluse and that's why he didn't. Or maybe he's a lying, manipulative sack of shit that's afraid of letting a court see the emails to his tax guy where he claims he doesn't actually have a business. Allegedly.
So low he could parachute out of a snake's asshole.